happens? Well, tonight, just an hour and a half before his self-imposed deadline, Trump backed down and managed to justify a form of an off-ramp for himself. In a post on his social media account, Trump said he had agreed to, quote, suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of, you guessed it, 2 weeks. And in case you weren't familiar, 2 weeks has long been the president's absolute favorite timeline for putting off promises that he doesn't want to deliver on.
Kill everybody tomorrow at 5 p.m. We all freak out. Then he's like, you know what, actually, I'll kill everyone in 2 weeks. Then we relax, and then he forgets he ever said it in the first place. He has the memory and the skin color of a goldfish. And maybe the worst part, well, you know he's a bananas, but maybe the worst part of all of this is how relaxed the congressional Republicans are about it. Now, he threatens to annihilate a civilization. They're like, well, you know how he is. He's a big talker. He yaps. And it's always 2 weeks. He's like a conscientious employee. He always gives 2 weeks notice.
We're going to be sending letters out in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks, within 2 weeks. I could answer that question better in 2 weeks. I'll do this at some point over the next 2 weeks. I'll announce it over the next 2 weeks. I'll tell you about that in a month from now or 2 weeks from now.
Trust President Putin.
You know, in about 2 weeks. You can ask that question in 2 weeks, and we'll see. It'll be out in about less than 2 weeks. We're going to start selling, hopefully, in about 2 weeks.
I'll be making a big decision on the Paris Accord over the next 2 weeks.
We're signing a health care plan within 2 weeks. We call it the gold card, and we're going to start selling, hopefully, in about 2 weeks. So we can just sit down, and I'll do this at some point over the next 2 weeks. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks.
We'll have something in 2 weeks.
You'll have your approval in 2 weeks. I could answer that question better in 2 weeks. I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. You can ask that question in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I think in 2 weeks we'll know which way I'm going.
It's always 2 weeks. Always 2 weeks. Now, the 2 weeks ceasefire.
Listen to me, Trump. I'm going to tell you fat fucking ass something. You're getting ready to get the living crap kicked out of you. You don't know because they haven't really told you. And let me tell you something. They're gonna start breaking the news to you kind of gently, and you're gonna sit there and wonder what it feels like to be punched in the mouth by Mike Tyson. But you won't know, because it's quite one thing to imagine what it's like to get punched in the mouth by Mike Tyson. It's another thing to actually get punched in the mouth by Mike Tyson, and that's what's gonna happen to you in November. Now, let's talk about your future, your post-November future. First, people are not going to return your phone calls. They're going to correctly think, yesterday, they'll say, well, he's got 2 years left. He can do damage. No one gives a shit about him. The Democrats are going to investigate you to no end. I would like to introduce you to Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, D. Rhode Island. Because it is a lot of people's view. By the way, and Congressman Jeffers and Senator Schumer, they're going to go down to the White House on November 10th, and then you're going to have some stiff photo of them sitting there talking about collegiality and cooperation. Believe that bullshit. Then they're going to start going after you. Then they're going to start figuring out where all the money stolen is. Then they're going to go after you stupid jackass kids and their spouses and all the other bullshit that you see. And they're going to investigate the shit out of you. And then when it comes to this stuff you're doing in Iran, I got to tell you, you're getting really, really close to war crimes here. You're probably going to cross the line. And the one thing that Democrats are going to insist on in the 2028 election is that if you're indicted by the International Court, I think it's in The Hague, or somewhere in the Netherlands, we're going to protect your ass. Not going to protect you. Understand that. Then it's all going to come, and they're all going to turn on you. And you know who's going to turn on you? What's left of the Republican senators. There may be 43 to 45 of them left. Now, the House is going to vote to impeach you. You're going to be impeached in 2027. Now, You say to vote to convict. These senators can't stand you. These Republican senators, they can't stand you. They have to be there because of their politics back in their states, but it's going to be apparent to them that you're a loser, and you're a losing fucking bet. And you're going to see all this come around you, and you're going to see this pressure from civil courts, congressional investigations. You're going to know that as soon as the Democrats get back in power, the days of Merrick Garland are gone. Bye. Thank you. Good night. Okay. And you're going to see all of this surrounding you. Then you're going to see all the civil suits. Then you're going to think about how they're going to try to get all the money back. And you're a soft man. You're not a hard man. You're not going to be able to take it. And you're going to be very, very lonely. Very lonely. And you're going to be left with sycophants in your cabinet. And don't even get me started as to what's going to happen to Pete Hegseth. I don't think Pete Hegseth realizes how much he's despised in those 5 rings. Pete, there are people that have notes, there are people that have diaries. Everything that you've done is going to come forth. You understand that? Trust no one. They hate you. They can't stand you. And, of course, they're loyal people, and they will bide their time, but they're also patriotic people, and they will respond to legally issued subpoenas, duces tecum, that means documents, diaries, notes, everything. Yeah, they're coming after you, Pete. They're coming after you with your fake-ass macho bullshit, bombing schools in Iran, crap like that. But Trump, about a year from now, you're going to look at it and you're going to see all of the exposure that you have. Your phone calls are not going to be returned. Foreign leaders don't give a shit about you because you're going to be a lame duck. You're not going to get any judicial nominees through. Forget about it. Forget about it. And then you're going to have what we refer to as a come to Jesus moment. You're going to assess where you are, even through your cloudy, stupid, fat-addled brain. You're going to figure out, I got to get the hell out of here. And you're going to cut a deal, and you're going to resign. NJD is going to pardon you. You got to pardon a lot of other people. But he's a creepy, ambitious little twerp. He'll do whatever he can to get in the White House. But they can't pardon you for state crimes. They can't pardon you in the International Criminal Court. They can't pardon you for any of this. And they can't pardon you from civil. Just right now, your life as you knew it is getting ready to end. And I'm not one of these people that want you to get sick. Oh, no. I want you to be fully cognizant. I want you to watch that fucking television on election night when the American people tell you how much they can't stand the sight of you. I want you to see it. I want you to feel the pain. Then I want the congressional people to come in and tell you, sir, you don't have any support left on the Hill. They're all turning on you. And they're going to turn you in. And you're going to have a terrible, terrible existence. And it's an existence that you richly, richly deserve.
The conflict by widening it and by continuing to control the Strait of Hormuz, they can make this thing last for a very long time. Governor, I guess the question I want to ask you is, we sit here at the end of this week, it's hard not to. I just want to get your reflection on what we saw, because there have been a lot of extraordinarily alarming things that have happened in the course of the 10 years we've been dealing with Donald Trump on the national stage. But for a lot of people, the combination of the Truth Social post he sent on Easter Sunday morning, dropping the F-bomb, calling the Iranians crazy bastards, mocking Islam, the entirety of the religion, and then the civilization obliteration threat that he sent on Tuesday, were kind of crossing some kind of new Rubicon and reaching, as Peggy Noonan wrote in the Wall Street Journal, kind of some kind of new place and a new low. I'm curious, from the perspective, both as a chief executive of a state, but also as someone with military service in your background, What were your reflections on watching that chain of events unfold over the course of this last week?
Unfortunately, I actually wasn't terribly moved because this is just a continuation. You could do an entire March Madness bracket of crazy things that Donald Trump has tweeted. And who knows what would end up in the Final Four. Maybe those would end up in the Final Four. But the truth is that he has said so many things that were not just deeply offensive and outlandish and destabilizing that I think we just stopped losing count. This is... I've long said that the President of the United States is not right for this office, and he shouldn't be there. He came in with 3 goals that he campaigned on. I'm going to lower your prices. I'm going to release the Epstein files and the Epstein client lists, and no more foreign wars. He lied to us each and every time because none of those were the intention that he had when he got back into the Oval Office. And so what we are doing right now as chief executives is trying to make sure that we are protecting our people as much as possible. That, we were actually just at the National Action Network yesterday talking about some things that we're doing in Maryland to make sure that we are, not just pushing back on Trump, but pushing forward for our people. But, the reality is that, we opened a window that he crawled back in, and it's just very difficult for anyone to justify why his actions or behavior could justify why he's sitting in that seat right now.
Yeah. Governor, I'm curious how you feel and what your message might be to Republicans in office right now in the Senate and Congress across the country. That seems rather muted to some pretty severe moves taken by this president in the past week.
I would just remind people what we remind, people in our state and for members of our armed forces every day is remember your oath. You did not take an oath to him. You did not take an oath to the President of the United States. You did not take an oath to Donald Trump. You took an oath to the Constitution. You took an oath to the people you represent. Do not forget who put you there. Donald Trump did not put any of you there. The people who you represent put you there. And so it's not just about the fact that if the people who put you there, they can put you out. But it also is about if you have any honor or any integrity, that you would hopefully remember why you are there in the first place. And if you were there just simply to bend the knee to an individual, then I think you should have a very difficult time looking yourself in the mirror.
Heard those 3 pledges that Donald Trump made, which he summarized quite nicely and said of themselves, I too am an if not anti-political person, and I see all politicians as corrupt. And the job now for someone like you is to begin to quantify how off the grid the corruption and the money flowing somewhere is relative to even a normal corrupt politician. Where is the money going if we were to follow it? How do you begin to tell the story in ways that can actually be felt by a normal person?
Yeah, I mean, it's so staggering, and they're not interested in building or rebuilding trust with the American people. That's not their goal or their intent. And I feel it because, listen, that's the family you're talking about. That's my family. I don't come from a political background. I'm not a person who's gone from office to office. This is the first elected office I've ever held in my life. And I've never been someone who's been involved in the political world. I did because I wanted to end child poverty in the state of Maryland. That's why I ran just a few years ago. And I think about what people are seeing right now, where we are watching billionaires getting tax cuts and prediction markets allowing people with access to make money on insider information. And the President of the United States, whose family has made billions of dollars since he's been back in public office. And people are frustrated and angry. I know in the state of Maryland, for example, I had predecessors who made millions of dollars while they were the governor because they were able to make decisions based on information on decisions that they were making. So not only did I put all of my assets in a blind trust so people could have full faith and confidence that what I'm doing, I have no idea what's ever benefiting me, but I actually signed legislation in Maryland that from here on out, anyone who will ever be the governor of the state of Maryland must put their assets in a blind trust so people can help to restore the faith in the decisions that are being made by the chief executive. So we are going to have to be able to talk about how are we going to rebuild and think about this thing differently. Because the grift that is happening right before our eyes, the usage of the pardon power, and how you're watching people who he is pardoning and then turning around and investing in his kids' companies. This is something that is going to not just continue to erode of public faith in public service, but also something that's going to have long-term consequences about how this country navigates itself.
First Lady Melania Trump is speaking right now at the White House. Let's listen in.
Good afternoon. The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time, since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell. My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence. My polite reply to her email doesn't amount to anything more than a trivial note. I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in 1998. This initial encounter with my husband is documented in detail in my book, Melania. Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone. Several prominent male executives resigned from their powerful positions after this matter became widely politicized. Of course, this doesn't amount to guilt, but we still must work openly and transparently to uncover the truth. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony. Each and every woman should have her day to tell her story in public if she wishes, and then her testimony should be permanently entered into the congressional record. Then, and only then, we will have the truth. Thank you.
We've been listening to First Lady Melania Trump speaking from the White House, saying point blank that the Epstein lies about her need to stop, and laying out a list of things she says she has never.
We can see there's something missing in your brain.